We testing. We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Ask Someone Else with yours truly, Property by Kazi. It's something we do each and every Sunday, 6 p.m. live, Instagram live, where we get to ask an industry expert loads of amazing questions about this property space that we all know and love. Got some great news for you as well. We are now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. So if you want to listen in your spare time or driving, make sure you log in. First episode up there is with the man himself, Tex Jones, a property developer, doing loads of great things. That's live over there. So you can go and save that, download that, and listen to that at your leisure. Today, got a great episode with a guest. Gonna try and get her in now. Let's have a look. And it's gonna be agent episode. I'm actually surprised we haven't done one of these thus far. It's long overdue. How you doing? You okay?
Hey, hi everyone.
We much appreciate you. I'd just like to say thank you very much. I know it was a busy Sunday for you and I gave you the wrong dates, but you're still obliged
Thank you for having me.
Meet us whilst in your car. So again, we appreciate the efforts that you've gone to. So hopefully we have a really good episode.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
How you doing? How's your weekend been?
Busy as always, but it's been a really successful weekend work-wise. Had a great Saturday and a lovely family Sunday.
That's good. Because you are actually, your name is the property mum. So you've made sure that you've got that work-life balance even in your Instagram name.
Well, I just wanted my Instagram page to represent the whole of me, and being a mum is what's driven me, really, to be honest, to get to where I am today. So yeah, I felt like it was well fitted.
That's good. And funny enough, I think you were probably actually one of my first maybe 100 followers, like very early on. So appreciate all the support, through my journey, and I've seen some growth on your side as well, which has been amazing. So it's great to have you on.
Well, absolutely nothing like your growth, though, to be fair. But I mean, I could see from the very outset in your early days. I was just literally so engrossed with what you have already achieved and the fact that you had kind of not already shared it. It was just so inspiring.
Yeah, I'm a late comer to Instagram, but start late, finish fast.
It's really humble. It's really, when we first ever spoke, that was something that I think why people really buy into your whole business and what you do, because you're just a very genuine, humble guy.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for taking the time out on your Sunday for joining us today. You're actually one of the first people that has sent me a deck of questions, to discuss. So you're clearly very organized.
Well, it comes part of the job. So everything is always planned in for me. It has to be.
I appreciate it. I do like to throw in some curveballs. So I do have your deck, but I'm sure we'll discuss things throughout the whole property sphere. But I think if you introduce yourself in terms of what you do in property, your drives, and we can get into a conversation.
Okay, so I actually fell into the property industry about 2 years ago, but I've taken a lead in sales and lettings, but I think my passion is probably sales within the past year. And that inspired me to start an Instagram page, because through just networking, I mean, in the really early days, I just started networking at pin meetings, at Corey, just meeting sort of all different types of roles in property. And it opened my eyes that the general estate agent doesn't tend to really cross over too much with the developers side of it. And the investment side of it. And it just really intrigued me, and joining Instagram has just helped me network and most importantly learn so much. And I think the belief I have in myself now, just by actually being a bit watching and learning from the people that I'm sort of aspiring to be like yourself, it's just sort of taught me my strategy, which we all have our own unique way, a plan, I should say, to get to where we want to be. Where I'm at the moment, again, London Property Mum is a real page. I'm a real person, and I am probably, about a quarter of my journey into where I want to be. And, you know, I'm an estate agent. I work full time. I have 3 children. I'm saving, and as soon as I'm in the position, I will be following in Kazi's footsteps.
Good, that's good. So you touched on, I think there's a lot of things you touched on there, and we'll sort of break them down individually. But for a lot of people, you know, they want to know how to get into property. And I think you touched on 2 really key things in terms of your journey, you know, to where you want to go and different things you want to do in your journey versus what you're doing now, and also the importance of networking. So what type of events did you actually did you attend? You said PIN was one of them?
Yeah, so the PIN meeting is a network of property investors, and it's all over London. I can't remember exactly how many meetings take place, but I believe there's about 20 and maybe more. So there's one in most people's sort of areas or chosen investment areas. These meetings just allow you to you have that direct interaction with all walks of people from the property industry, even from like mortgage advisors, up into, you know, the big boys. I've met guys that work for like Galloway's, and you know, they're right at the top. So it just sort of opened my eyes. Other sort of networking places that you can sort of meet people is forums, Instagram. There's always Clubhouse like meetings that I mean, that's just changed everything for everybody, hasn't it? Really, that's changed the whole networking game. There's so much out there, guys. Even I once signed up to, and unfortunately wasn't allowed to go, but like a landlord's meeting with Southwark, and I'm not actually a landlord, so but
yeah, no, you're right,
put yourself out there. You have to put yourself out there. I mean, if I meet a developer, I'll go to the development site. You know, you don't have to be in that position to learn and to live it and experience it. It's all preparation.
Yeah, I think that's really important, particularly because I've had a few friends that are agents, and I was saying that I think I've been to PIN meetings and similar like property networking events in and around London. And even when I tell people that are interested in the space, a lot of people feel like if they're not where they want to be in their journey, potentially that meeting's not for them. But you can literally, like you said, you can have a conversation with, it doesn't matter what somebody's doing. So somebody could be doing inventory inspections. They could have an EPC company. You could be an estate agent. You could be a massive developer. You can be an architect. But we're all looking for people with different services within the industry. And there's a lot of people that, for example, the guy I use for my EPCs, I met him at a networking event. He's now my go-to guy when I was running a rent-to-rent business. I think they were supplying us with, 50 EPCs, on a regular basis. So it's just building those connections through making sure you do, like you said, put yourself out there.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know what it is you want also a lot of the time. You mentioned that you sort of fell into property. I think if you don't put yourself out there, you might not know exactly what it is that you want until you meet those people that are doing it that can explain why it can be great. So for those, again, like, this is literally an opportunity to ask questions. So we've had a couple in the comment section. You've also got an option to pin a question to ask, and then we can sort of discuss that directly. So what area is it? Where in London do you work? What area?
So currently I'm covering West Norwood and West Dulwich, some parts of SW16, but really just the sort of borderlines, Liam Court Road. I have covered quite a few areas since starting. I started off in Loughborough Junction. Most of the developments we was working with was in Croydon, and then I've moved on to Dulwich. I spent a year in Dulwich, which was a fantastic experience. As you know, Dulwich is a really fast pace, and some of the most amazing properties. And then I've been moved on to Beckenham, Annerley, and currently now I'm in West Norwood, which I'm really, really loving. So,
I think for budding developers that are looking at potentially a way into becoming a developer, like what you just spoke about, being able to cover so many areas in South London, for example, if you're looking to get into development, you really can't beat that from an experience point of view, because when if a sourcer pitches you a deal, but you've spent 2 years working in all these areas, you know the difference between that property on Liam Court Road versus that property on Pinfall Road in Streatham, and the difference between them, even though they're really in close proximity. So I think for a lot of people, not necessarily starting out, but I highly recommend, I actually almost regret that I didn't get to do my stint in an actual agency, because I think it prepares you for so many different things, not to mention the contact base that you can build up as well.
Do you know what, just touching on working in an agency, because I do get a lot of messages from like women in my position, or actually even some men sometimes, and they might be mums, or they've got, you know, a lot of like responsibility, demands in their life, and they're like, you know, I'd love to do what you're doing, but like it's quite, you know, the hours are intense, and can I find this sort of job part-time? And you know, the answer is no. But what you can do, which can gain you just as much as experience, is like property sourcing, which you yourself actually was like helping me, encouraging me to sort of learn and sort of develop my skills in that. So I just wanted to put that out there. A lot of people might not be able to sacrifice that level of time to become an agent, but there are ways around it that you can still gain so much. You know, for me personally, I really wanted to learn. I really wanted to be in an agency for a couple of years, so this works for me. But I have, through Instagram and networking, met, like, I've got like a couple of other property mums, and for instance, one in particular, I've got the contacts who will want to invest, but she's got the properties. So bringing that together, you know, is still experience. You're still learning. You're still working with new people and networking. So yeah, working in an agency is great, but you know, just for those that want to become that, would love to work in property but can't quite maybe commit those hours, that's always another option.
Because the hours are quite long. They're quite like, you know, intense hours. I mean, yeah, that's actually quite interesting for those that maybe do want to get into your field. What is like just talk us through what is it like working in the stage? What are the hours like? How do you find it? What's a day in the life like for you?
You know, being an agent is a bit like being on a hamster wheel, but one that you're happy running on, to be honest. You want to be running. You want that wheel to keep turning. So your day starts early. The phone lines open for us at 9 a.m. But I know a lot of other agencies, it's like 8 a.m., 8:30. But I'm in every day for like 8:15, because it's a really busy day. You're working with so many different clients, and it's not just the people buying. You're working with the vendors, the people that own the properties. So, you know, you're juggling lots of people, lots of appointments, and you have to have a memory, a really good memory to keep that personal relationship with every person you work with. Averagely, I probably finish between 7 and 8. I actually finish at 6:30. And a lot of people don't understand, you know, some of my friends might ring me and they say, you're still in the office, what are you doing there? That's crazy, you're not getting paid for that. But you have to see the bigger picture. So, and that's what I mean by the demand. That makes all the difference. That me staying till 7:30, 8 will mean that I'll be able to become a property developer much sooner than someone that is, you know, ready to walk out the door at 6:30. So it's a lot of commitment. You have to love what you're doing.
Yeah, so the short-term sacrifices for the long-term gains is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
So then, to get a job in the estate agency, I mean, what was the interview process like? What skill set I mean, you mentioned being organized, but away from being organized, what other skill set did they want you to have previous experience in property? What were the requirements like?
I've been really lucky. If I'm honest, I think a lot of the job is your personality. If people warm to you, you can be hired just based on that. Now, I don't want to like sort of, you know, send out any false advice, because you obviously need to have some, you know, some basic skills, people skills, computer skills, and just sort of really some property. If you don't have the experience, at least have some passion, because well before getting into property, I've always looked at buildings, I've always checked out property prices, so you have to have that sort of naturally installed in you. But for instance, I kind of got into the industry in admin, but the director, I won't say what name because it's quite a big company, but a director noticed me and said, you know, what are you doing in that? I was covering viewings, and every time I was covering them, I was getting them sales. And he was like, we're putting you in sales. We think you'd be good at sales. You know, and it really was just based on because back then I was obviously just doing admin. I didn't know much. It was really based on personality and just being personable with each person that you meet.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head there though, because if you've got a passion for it, then like you'll be able to sell the property because you know what's good about the property. And even if the property is a horrible property, you'll be able to see the potential because of the passion. And then it's a people business that you're working in. Like a lot of the time, the properties may sell themselves, but people buy from the person. So you mentioned, like, obviously, even when you was an admin, you were getting these deals across the line because people warmed to you and wanted to buy through you. And I think with the changes in the platforms where, it's just highly platform led. So Zoopla and Rightmove, as opposed to having, agent A or agent B or a preferable agent, people go, they're property driven rather than agent driven. But being somebody who can, assimilate with somebody and kind of build relationships and rapport quite quickly, you can then build relationships which almost take the earnest away from the platform and back onto personal relationships.
You can't beat a personal relationship. I'm always banging on about it on my Instagram about building a relationship with your agent. And it makes all the difference. If I'm working with somebody and I've built a relationship with them, for me, the key things are, you need to kind of figure out what does this person need. Sometimes they don't even know themselves, they need to see a lot of properties to figure it out. But it's about having that relationship. So when that, dream property comes available and I'm the first to hear about it, I'm contacting you straight away and you're going to be the first to know about it. The person that hasn't built up the relationship with me, that's maybe been a bit, not been so forthcoming and been, not sort of interacted, I'm unlikely to call them. In everything in life, I think communication and building relationships is always going to be a plus, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think that's key. Like, even just being like quite transparent with what you're looking for, because if somebody's being cagey about their budget or something like that, but in actual fact they want a property that's in, for example, a certain school area, a certain school district or catchment area, if that's their main driver, to phone them about that property. And also then, if you know what they want, you take them on the right viewing, so you don't think they're a time waster, and vice versa. So it works both ways with your clients and for you as well, to make sure that you can maximize how well you can do. And I think that leads me on very well to a question from Hussein, which is saying, it said maybe not on average, but maybe explain. So their question was, how much does the average estate agent earn in London? Because they'd love to be one. So you can either answer that question or maybe just talk about how it works, because it's a very commission-based industry.
Yeah, so I mean, I think if you was to Google it, the average would probably be, I don't know, maybe something like there's always a basic, and I would say the average basic is probably between 18 to 20. I think it's more the seniors that are going to be on a basic of like the 23s plus. Commission is what you want, how much you want to make. It's hard to answer that question. I would have to just honestly just say every single agent I've ever met earns different money. It really does. It depends on where you're based. It depends on how hard you're going to work. I don't want to say too much,
because it's completely different. But just to give you an idea, like you said, like the basic. I know some people that just are not there for the basic, but they're there for the basic and the viewings that fall on their lap and the deals that happen to just fall on their lap and whatever. And they might, make £500 commission on top of their basic. They might make less, they might make more some months, but it's kind of, they just make what the business gives them. There's them people that are really proactive. And I know agents that have had, 10K months, plus in terms of their commission. So I think that's the great thing about the industry, that you make as much as you want to make as long as the demand's there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's quite hard to put a figure on it, because let's just say between 30 to 50 plus. But obviously you have juniors, we have just normal negotiators, and then you have seniors. But I definitely promote this industry for anybody that has that sort of sales drive in them. Mainly, and someone like myself, I did actually go to uni for 1 year, and not all of us are. It's not for all of us. I think some of us work with our hands, and more people like working with people. Sorry. For instance, my first trade was as a hairdresser. I then had a market stall. So I've always been a doer rather than, paper and pen. So I think it's amazing that I'm able to earn, levels that people have had to go to university for. And I just think it's, there's not that many industries that you can get that happy medium and, live a really comfortable life. Yeah,
no, that's good. And I think SM1 just said I can sell anything. So if you can sell anything, I think it might be the industry for you, because if you're good at sales, that's what it is at the end of the day. It's a sales slash customer service, because you're building rapport. But if you are particularly, if you're looking to start your property journey, doesn't matter at what age, but it can be a really good way to begin that journey. So Joey Lynn, she noted that she was lucky, and I wanted to make the point that it was never luck. She is passionate about something, so she learned a bit of information. So that's very nice from Joey.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I think that's the thing. I saw like some quotes recently saying like that successful people often don't talk about like the luck element of why their success is, because it almost takes away from saying that it was by design. But I think that what you notice with successful people is they may get lucky on occasions, but they put themselves in that position to be able to receive that luck. So somebody would say, oh yeah, Hayley got lucky that person bought the property. But no, actually what happened was, before that, she made 10 phone calls. Before that, she knew what the person wanted, and you sold that property, not because of luck, but because you put yourself in a position to potentially receive that. So I think there is a balance between that, and you should always remember to pat yourself on the back and don't put it down to luck, but put it down to hard work.
Thanks, I accept that. Sometimes it is easy. I guess it's easier to sort of, it's not in our nature to just naturally sort of big ourselves up like that.
But I think that's so important that we do, and we've had conversations with different people, but like I think it's so important to to actually celebrate the big wins as well as the little wins. Because that's what drives you to keep going. When you said you're thinking, should I go home at 6:30, and then you don't, and then you get 2 deals across the line between 7 and 7:45, that's when you say, okay, this is why I'm doing it.
Do you know what, this is literally truth testament. Saturday morning I walked into the office, the office that wasn't working hours, and I looked at the phone and I thought, I hadn't even had a morning coffee, nothing. And something inside said, what, answer that phone. This could be your next bit of commission. I grabbed the phone. It was a lovely gentleman that with, one of our other branches they've just gone under offer. I've got him into the property that just literally went live the night before. Within 10 minutes after the viewing, he's presented a full asking offer. So, it does going that extra mile will 100% make the difference and will get you to where you need to be. But it's about consistency daily, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think maybe that leads me on quite well to another question I had. From a developer standpoint, like how, obviously we've spoken about it as, the trials and tribulations and the potential successes as an agent, but from a developer that want to work with agents to proactively buy multiple properties, how would you say, they best position themselves, put them in a best position to get those good properties, and to also, when putting an offer forward, what would you say makes one stand out above another?
Again, communication, 100%. Because obviously we do get calls, working in an agency, we do get calls from developers. And the difference that stands out by miles is when you're taking a call and the person is just so straight and transparent from the outset. Hey, look, I'm looking for this level of deal, any sort of low leases. I'm not interested in stuff that's not going to be, people that maybe have had a sale that's fallen through and they really, really do need to move on. I think honesty is the best thing. The worst thing ever is to go to a viewing, like pursue a property that you're going to go and offer a lot below the asking price. Not communicate none of this with the agent. The agent now takes their time out because, let's be honest, time is money, and that appointment could have been for somebody else. And then they go, yeah, I'm really interested, but then present you with a ridiculous offer and then later down the line explain, well, this is the reason why. So that whole scenario there then creates a negative relationship. I'm unlikely to call that person back just because of the way they handled themselves. Because it's in, you know, there's a difference between residential, and I think that's where some people struggle. Like, so you can get some amazing deals, but some properties through agencies, and then obviously this differs to what agency you're at. Like one agency I was at, we had access to many good sort of opportunity properties. Where I'm at now, it's a kind of higher end. It's a different type of market, so it's about choosing the right agents to work with as well. I mean, I would still say, even the ones that have got the, you know, the top end, always register yourself, be really, really polite, be really, really pleasant, just be yourself, like literally be yourself, because we're all humans. So it sounds dodgy when someone's on the phone being dodgy, you know.
Yeah, no, and I do hear that, and I think that makes a lot of sense, like in terms of just communicating clearly what you want, because like you said, time is money. There's no point them wasting your time, and vice versa. There's no point you wasting their time, because if they're clear with what they want, that person that, you know, for example, a property's on for 500,000 and they want to offer 450, but you know they've turned down 4 offers at 490. You know there's no point them going on the viewing for your time and for their time. So I think that transparency, I think it was Mr. Meeks. He asked how do developers get good deals from you? So I guess that kind of answers that question in terms of just transparency, being clear with what you want. And then what about the way in which an offer is presented? Is there like a format that you like that makes it easier? Like, is it just more information?
You know, obviously each vendor is it's a different sell, but just on a general, I think it's always wise just to say, you know, some applicants will say to me, you know, like, what's the vendor's position? Tell me about them. Learn a bit about them, and then when you're presenting your offer, if you're going to be going like under, I think it's always really, really helpful when an offer's presented with a bit of an explanation. That might the vendor may never see that, but I just think it's, you know, it makes all of the difference. Some of these sales are emotional. Some people have had these houses for 30, 40 years. You know, it has to. The other day, I sort of lost my patience with an applicant because he was, you know, he just wasn't understanding the value of a property, which I take quite personally sometimes, because I just, you know, I'm so invested in property.
Because you love the properties as well, right? So if you're looking at a property in like East Dulwich, you're like, this is amazing, and they're telling you it's not worth it. You're thinking it is. Yeah, it definitely is.
So, you know what? And I think I might make it my new slogan. I just said, make it make sense for the vendor. We don't need to have a million conversations of why you think, you know, the property's valued at that price.
I like that one.
Make it make sense for the vendor. Get it on paper. Let's make this formal, because, you know, it's not going to make no difference if you're just coming in, you know, blunt and well, that's what I think it's worth. End of. Like, it always boils down to communication and relationships, and making sure that you're treating, you know, just respect. Basic respect.
Cause that's the other thing I've seen as well. I've seen people accept a lower offer from somebody else because they just said, I didn't like how that person offered. So I've seen that before in the past as well.
Yeah, same here. Like that happens quite often, especially with like, I think first time buyers. I see that a lot with, you know, when you've got like a hot first time buyer property, there's always going to be those first time buyers that are like super, super cautious and come with like 25 questions and stuff like that. And like literally a week ago that happened, and you know, they offered 5k higher than the other couple, but just because of the vendors felt like there'd be such a headache. You know? Yeah.
No, I've experienced that. I'm currently de-weeding a garden between exchange and completion, because I got are you familiar with like a rider? So it's like when it's like a schedule of works that off the back of a home buyer survey we agreed to complete. The rider was like a page of A4, but because everybody's rushing to meet the stamp duty, I was like, you know, I'm just going to do it. But in a normal circumstance, I would just say, just put it back on the market. I can't deal with this. It's too much stress.
Yeah, you see what I mean? Like, you know, like make it make sense for the vendor.
No, literally, that's it. That I might adopt that one. We're gonna adopt that. We're gonna make sure you say we heard it here first from the property mum. Make it make sense for the vendor.
It's a deal, isn't it? any
Yeah.
deal is a deal. So as long as everybody's involved, and I think that's what does make a bit of the difference. A lot of my applicants will say, and my vendors, it's really, really nice to work with you. It's like a breath of fresh air. You really are different to other agents I've worked with. And I think the key is just making sure everybody in that dynamic is happy.
Because you do have a bit of a negative stigma as an estate agent, almost like a traffic warden. Like,
Oh God! Well, they call us the sharks, don't they? They say,
yeah,
we're sharks, and it's a shark industry, and it is. It's cutthroat. It's cold. Obviously, I think having the experience of different kind of agencies, some are a lot more corporate than others. But it doesn't matter where you go; it's always cutthroat. It's a cutthroat industry.
Ooh, you're just doing these transitions. You're doing them so well. We haven't even touched your list yet. You haven't even. Have you got your? Can I see your hand? Have you got a notepad in your hand at the
No,
moment?
literally
Okay, we're
nothing,
all good.
nothing.
Okay, that was a great transition into a question from Coconut Sugar. It says, "Would you say it's a male-dominated industry, and if so, how have you dealt with it?"
Yeah, 100%. And London by Property Mum is how I deal with it. Is by putting myself out there, because I would love for more women to get into the industry, and also just like as in property developers as well. I mean, I know there is a good selection of women to look up to out there,
Well,
which
I've
is
made sure, by
amazing.
the way, I was told off last season. This season, 50-50 split of male and females of the guests this
Well,
season.
it's because it's probably just instinctual for you,
Mm.
like it is for everybody in this sort of industry, because it is a male dominated place. It's been hard at times. I've had the odd experience where I felt I was just as good as a male colleague, but he would be given the better opportunities than me. He was just automatically more trusted than I was. So there is still a little bit out there, the whole, I don't know, let's not go too deep with sort of throwing out words and accusations, but yeah, it is a little bit
Yeah,
male dominated. But, I just handle that by selling. You
and
can't,
that's it.
the numbers,
Numbers talk at the end of the day.
yeah,
So if there was if you felt there was a degree of sexism, but then you went and just literally smashed everybody else's numbers, you're going to
yeah,
smash that sexism out of the water, because your desk is going to be at the front. You're going to have the best phone. They're going to make sure that you are ready. You're on the right viewings, because realistically, like, because of the way the commission structure works, your managers are incentivized to almost remove that potential element of sexism, because whoever's doing the best makes them the most money. So if you're going to
yeah.
make them more money, they're more incentivized, to make sure that you're in a position to do that.
Do you know, honestly, like I'm good at sales is what has literally carried me through. There's been some positions I've been in, and I'm literally wearing my heart on my sleeve. I am who I am, and I'm not massively sort of corporate. I think I'm just more of a small sort of a small little team that works really, really well for me. But I've had to, I've literally just made myself fit into places, just because nobody can sort of tell me anything, because I'm hitting those numbers. I'm beating everyone on my team.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, you can be who you want to be. You could just be yourself, and you don't have to worry whether it's male, female, whether whether you fit into their little box
That's
or
it.
not.
So, yeah. First, be yourself, smash the numbers, and you can be who you want to be in the space.
Yeah, literally. Like how I am now is how I always am. I'm just so transparent, and I think that's what will keep you going. And even with a male dominated office, you can't beat authenticity, can you? And sales.
No, definitely. So I think slight change of pace now. You touched on it at the beginning, but from what you've learned, what you've picked up, what do you want to do in the future? Because in terms of, would you go through, like, would you want your own office? Would you want to own your own estate agency? Would you want to go into development? Like, where do you see your career trajectory heading?
I want to become a developer. So, I mean, I'm always sort of promoting people getting on the property ladder and buying their first home. When I'm in that position, I'm not going to invest in my first home. I'm going to invest in a property to create more capital. And that's that's my short-term goal. My long-term goal is to just be doing development like as my career. I don't necessarily need an office or anything like that. I don't think I wouldn't want my own agency. And it's not because I don't love what I'm doing. I really, really do love what I'm doing, but I know that I'll love development even more.
Yeah.
And I just think it's not worth, you just got to do what you actually love. And when I'm watching stories like yours and like Tex Jones, you know, these guys, I'm like sitting behind a desk thinking, oh God, like every part of me knows it's coming, but like every part of me just wishes that I was out and about on the road, you know, in my developments, project managing and, you know, being really doing what I want to love. So that is the long-term goal.
Well, I'm sure it definitely is coming. I'm sure I've seen your drive, I've seen your work ethic. And if you know what I mean, deliver that and continue that into whatever future ventures you want to go into, I'm sure you'll smash them just like you're smashing your targets in sales. But I think the other side of that is you have to enjoy what you're doing now as well. You can't there's a step to everything. And that whole concept of, you know, leveraging your 9 to 5 to create a secondary income. Then at that point, the secondary income gives you enough to be able to leave your 9 to 5. You can focus on that. And also, I think like the difference between like owning and running an estate agency, because you actually enjoy, like you said, being out and about, being proactive, networking with people, like running an estate agency, you almost spend so much time, I think, or from my mind, and I'm sure I'll get an owner of an estate agency on to maybe correct me or to argue this, but from my mind, like even when I was running a rent-to-rent business, I spent so much time like in an administrative role that I didn't actually get to do what I liked, which was sales and networking and, you know, deal brokerage and things like that. So I think definitely from the skill set you've kind of explained, your goals are on the right path. Let me have a look at a couple of questions. It's not really directly for you, but you can have a share. So it's when buying your first property, what is more important, your credit score or the capital that you have?
Well, they're both important, to be honest, because without the savings, you can't get a deposit anyway. And without the credit, it's a lot harder for you to get a deposit. I mean, I think we've come leaps and bounds with sort of, you know, help out there with lending. And I think, but you will end up with higher interest rates and, you know, because you're more of a risk. So, yeah, I think they're both as important as each other.
Yeah, they go hand in hand, because if you look at it this way, the amount for particularly on a residential mortgage, you know, there's 5% deposits now, but typically it's 10% up to 15% during the sort of COVID period. But that means of whatever property you want to buy, you're required to have that minimum of 5, anywhere up to 15% as your deposit. Then in terms of how much the bank will lend you, that is based on your earnings requirements. So anywhere from 4.5 to 5 times your earnings based on what your credit is. And the better your credit is, the lower the banks will lend you money at, because it's just risk and reward. If you've always paid all your bills on time, don't have any debts, you're seen as lower risk, so you can borrow for cheaper, which means it costs you less on a monthly basis. So potentially you can even buy a slightly nicer property. So I think that
what was, just out of interest, I've seen, you know, these 5% mortgages, I've seen a lot of sort of negative opinions on them, and I just out of interest, what's your take on them?
So like I've looked at them and I can see the pros and cons of both sides. Obviously, a pro is that a 5% deposit means that people can get on the property ladder earlier with less savings, you know, and property prices, although we've seen a slight dip last month, generally speaking, they go up. They go up in London. They've been going up for the last however long. When you look at it, like, you know, from further out, there's little troughs and ups and downs, but generally speaking, they go up. So the earlier you can get on, generally, the better it is for you. So that's great news for a lot of people. They can buy properties earlier. The downside is that if you've only got a 5% deposit, and if those 5% mortgages are taken away, it means if property prices stay the same and there's no longer 5% mortgages, you could be in a position where you couldn't remortgage your property. So when your product comes to an end, you'd have to go on the you'd be off the fixed product, go on the flexible product, which would mean you'd be paying really high repayments. Also, it could mean if property prices dips a little bit and dip by 2%, you've now only got 3% equity, so you're now in a position where you're not mortgageable and basically what they call like a mortgage prisoner. So I think those things, why they can be dangerous, but because they do add an element of, they make property investment more accessible. I do like them because of that. And what I would probably say is, in reality, it's a combination of, there should potentially be like a financial literacy course, so you understand what you're getting yourself into when you take out that product. Because there's a lot of people that have been paying £1,200 rent for the last 5 years, but can't get a mortgage for £900 a month. And it's like, okay, if I've been paying £1,200 a month consistently for 60 payments over a 5-year term, why are you saying that I can't afford this? And it's that kind of balance there between, okay, what does the spreadsheet say? What does the numbers say? And then what's actually affordable? So I think things like that kind of make it a balance. But I do think as long as people understand what the exposure is, and there's also like an exit strategy for people. So we're not just thinking about, offer people 5% mortgages. And in 2 years' time, if there's, change of government, change of policy, well, those people are stuck. There does need to be a long-term plan. If you're telling people to sign up for a 30-year mortgage, you effectively need a 30-year plan for these products, as opposed to it just being like something as like a stimulus for the economy. That's kind of my roundabout. I kind of sat on the fence, so I didn't really give you a yes or no
do you know
answer.
what? I can relate to that, because I'm kind of a bit Switzerland on it too. But yeah, first and foremost, I'd always advise anybody, if you've got 5%, wait a few more years, get your 10%. You can only get new builds. You're never going to be able to add value. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's unlikely you'll be able to add value to that. Any of my friends and family, I would always say, I think they're great. And that's where I'm on the fence, because I do get, it's positive that people are able to get on the property ladder. But, I just think you have to, sort of future safe-proof yourself.
And I think that's it. It's what are you looking for? Because if you're looking for a family home and you're like, look, I just want a home. I'm not looking at it as an investment. I'm not looking at it as, security. I'm not looking at prices. I'm just looking at, look, this is a great home for me or for my family or for me and somebody else. Then maybe the 5% mortgage is a great way for you to secure that home, because it's a long-term investment, and in the long term, prices will go up and you'll be fine. However, if you're looking at something more short-term, when talking about investing in property, one thing that I always champion is you make your money when you buy. So if you buy a brand new build that's on a help to buy scheme, and you've got a 5% deposit and it's already maybe 5 to 10% over market price, then you're in a position where you could be in negative equity. So I think you just need to consider those things, like what's your driver behind buying that property, and when you're looking at it, and how long do you think you're going to be in that property for? Because if it's like, potentially a home for life, it's not really the end of the world. But if it's like a short-term property that you're planning to sell in a couple of years' time, I think you have to be a lot more cagey and a lot more astute when buying, and pay a lot more attention to the numbers themselves.
Absolutely.
A couple of questions come in. Let me see. Which is an interesting one, actually, from Lauren. Is there greater competition / is it harder to be hired by like a premium, like estate agent? So I guess they mean sort of your Foxtons, your KFHs maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like an easy thing to get a job in all of those three big companies that you've just mentioned. They're very, very specific and each branch will have a different director that will, they'll have their own specific needs of who exactly they're looking for. I've been turned down by, jobs that I was like really, really confident and thought, I've definitely got this one in the bag. You have to stand out. There's a lot of people out there that want to do this job. So it's not easy. And, for instance, Foxtons, you have to be prepared to work, I think it's twice a week, like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. They're going to pick up on when they sort of suggest that to you. your reaction needs to be 100% committed to that. So yeah, it's not easy. You have to really, really work hard. I would always say to anybody that's interested in pursuing a job as an estate agent, if you have an interview and you need any advice, you're always welcome to, just drop me a DM. Definitely prepare for that. Definitely prepare for your interview.
Yeah, I think, well, you heard it there first. Got the property my idea. If you got an interview, she'll give you a couple hints and tips of making sure prep for your interviews and how to get into the space. So that's good. I'll answer Lauren's question quickly. Why is it harder to add value with a 5% mortgage? It's not necessarily it's harder to add value, but a lot of those properties are on like help to buy schemes or they're new build properties, which means that you may be paying a premium for that property. So it's not that it's not going to go up in value, it's that maybe you're overpaying to start with, which is that. And then there was also a question which I saw, which I did want to touch on just before we conclude. So I don't know if you've seen recently, they're saying for the first time there has been a slight dip in property prices in London last month, I believe. How have you found the market recently? Where do you see it going? What are your thoughts on the market itself?
So yeah, there is some truth in that, and I'm just noticing that we are seeing each week has been so different. I just literally can't even explain how, like, it's been an up and down dip. We've had like I put everything quite publicly, so if you do follow me, you would have seen about 3 weeks ago I put a message out on my story and just like, guys, I don't know what is going on, is anyone else experiencing this? Like, the inquiries were completely down. We were sort of lowering the property prices, the marketing prices, sorry. People was having to accept offers lower than what we were seeing just a few weeks beforehand. Then last week it's booming again. I just think it's such an unpredictable market. It's hard to tell. The only thing I can sort of say where I can see that there is a slight dip is unless it's a star property that has like multiple interest, we are seeing, people are accepting lower offers because there's just not as much demand as there was a few months ago, which was the inevitable because we was in the stamp duty holiday bubble, wasn't we? So, and now that bubble is,
Yeah, I think that's it. We haven't truly seen like the effects of Brexit yet. From a construction side of view, we're seeing that slightly now with material prices going up, which means build costs are higher. In terms of where the market's going to go, in the short term, we don't know. There could always be a dip. We're still off the back of COVID, with things like potentially evictions, the end of the eviction ban, the end of like mortgage holidays and things like that potentially are going to mean that you are going to see some more distressed properties come onto the market. So a lot of opportunities in that way. But I think long term, the London demand, London itself is almost a bubble because of the demand. It's a capital city. It's an amazing place to live. There's demand from all over the world. At the moment, we're talking about this, this demand and there being maybe a slight dip, but that's without all of the international buyers as well, because they've not come back yet because of COVID and because of travel restrictions. So I think it's definitely, I wouldn't put, my foot out to say that I know exactly where it's going to go. But for me, when everybody asks, when's the best time to buy? I always say now, because it doesn't matter, what you're buying now, as long as you're buying, at the right price now, you can still be in a position to make money and you can still pick up deals. So that would be my
I'm not worried at all, I'm really not worried. I know there's a lot of professionals in the industry that might be watching this going like, you should be worried, things are gonna, go crazy and stuff. But where there is, and as horrible as it sounds, where there is downfall for some, there's going to be rises for others. I think after the September period, sort of leading into October, January, I think actually we're going to be just as busy as we was back when there was the bubble. So I think the momentum's going to go on for some time because, like you said, there's going to be people in situations where they are going to have to sell their property. There's going to be people in situations that maybe their property's been on the market, they've missed that sort of bubble and they're going to have to lower their prices because they need to move on, which is, I know I've come across a few comments on Instagram recently. Some people are saying they're waiting to after October to purchase. So there's a whole market there of people ready and waiting, like
Yeah, and I
ready and
think
waiting to grab those opportunities.
that's it. There's always opportunities. You just got to put yourself out there to be in a position to capture them. If the market goes down, that's an opportunity. If the market goes up, that's an opportunity. You just need to
Yeah.
understand how you can position yourself with whatever position you're in to take advantage of those opportunities. Yeah, and I think we'll kind of wrap it up there. I much appreciate you taking your time on a Sunday
You're
to
welcome.
check in and spread some really, really good knowledge. Where can the people find you? Because I've seen you've done a couple of lives. I've seen you've been active on social media. So if you're not already, make sure you're following the London Property Mum. Just tell us what else
Thank
is
you.
going on.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I've been quite quiet on my Instagram recently just because it's been super busy at work, but I do plan on becoming a bit more interactive with you guys. And maybe, who knows, maybe I'll be hosting my own live in a few months and Kaz can come and join me.
I will, of course. I will, of course. I hope to be your first guest on. Well,
You will
thank
be,
you.
do you know what? That's it now. You're my first
Yeah,
guest.
we locked in, yeah?
You
You heard
locked
it here
in.
first. So make sure you go and give her a follow. If you're not, if you're looking to get into the industry, drop her a DM, get in touch, see how you can reach out to London Property Mum. If you're catching up with this on Spotify or Amazon or Apple Podcasts, details will be in the description for how you can reach out. Away from that, I will be live each and every Sunday. We'll have a new episode out every week on a Monday on the podcast. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, as I mentioned. Next week, we've got Radhika Shah on, who is the queen of all things reels and HMO conversions. She'll be talking about her experience in buying and selling her HMOs. She refurbishes them in a really, really interesting way. Great design, great eye for detail. So I definitely recommend locking in for that one. Thank you very much, guys. And I'll let you all enjoy the rest of your weekend. Catch us next week.
See you later. Bye.
Take care. Bye.